Hello folks and welcome back to Crystal Reef County here on the eastern shores of central Florida. We're currently working on the city of San Leon, which is the county capital and eventually will be a bustling metropolis located on the county's biggest island. Now in the previous episode we built up the beachfront of San Leon with hotels and condo towers, as well as some light detailing of the beach, and this really helped boost the city's population and fill out some of the unoccupied white-collar positions that really plagued downtown. In today's episode, we'll actually be moving south of San Leon, all the way down here to the southern tip of the island, where we'll be starting a wealthy district, taking inspiration from riverline suburbs of western Florida, hotel-lined beachfronts of eastern Florida, but also some mansion-lined coastlines of the Hamptons on Long Island. Now this will likely span across multiple episodes, so we're going to start out with the river suburbs first. And if you are new to the series or the channel, you are of course very welcome on board as we are building Crystal Reef County, our modded vanilla assets only series taking place here on the eastern shores of central Florida. Alright, so where do we actually begin? Well, if we zoom out and take a look, we can see that one current issue, of course, is that we're actually missing infrastructure connections to the southern tip of the island here. We will need to draw out our highway, and we'll also need a railway connection because I would like a local station down here to serve this entire area and make for easy connections to the city of San Leon up here. And hopefully the goal is to also just fill out much of the island with suburban sprawl radiating from San Leon, and we'll then have local suburban train stations throughout. But all those infrastructure projects, I'll put those in either the ends of this episode because I'd like to actually just get going with some of the ideas I have for this area instead. I'm gonna grab the forest brush and then I'll just start removing some of the lush foresty areas we've got here. Because to achieve the river-lined suburbs that I'm taking some inspiration from western and of course eastern Florida as well, actually these things are just all over the place, I'll need to make some small canals that are obviously man-made and follow almost a strict grid, and then we'll line up some houses alongside them, and I think it's gonna look really awesome. So I think I'm going to try and just use the the district tool first to kind of paint out some makeshift districts and sort of try and compartmentalize this episode a bit so that I've got an idea of what I want to do. So if we just mark this area here, then that's going to be the Hamptons inspired area. So if we zoom in, we'll have some really nice villas and mansions with big lots and direct access to the beach lined up alongside just a single small road. Here we might have to expand this thin stretch of land a bit so that there's actually room for them, but I don't want there to be like a ton of room, and I want it to feel very private and secluded in a sort of way. Then we'll paint a district up here, which is going to be the Condo-towers. So that is the eastern Florida inspired coastline where the beachfront is just lined with condo towers and some tourist oriented commercial establishments. And we'll be adding a district here as well, where we'll just have our river-lined suburbs. That's probably the best description I can give. And to make all this possible, we are obviously going to need to jump in and do some landscaping. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to create these rivers, and I'd like to attempt to do it with the landscaping tools first, and then if that doesn't work when we start placing down the houses, then obviously we're going to need to use like some gravel roads to draw this out, which makes me think that it's probably best if we actually start with some roads. So I'm going to make a grid layout of sorts here, and afterwards I'm going to draw out the rivers between the gridded roads. Yeah, that's That's the best approach, I think. I'm going to level the terrain just a bit here to make it as easy as possible to work with, because this area is pretty flat. And then we'll just be mapping out the road layout. And it doesn't matter which road we choose for now, because we can always upgrade and add some intersection markings to just spice it up. So yeah, let's draw out a pretty simple grid structure here. Now, for the gridded roads that run parallel to each other, the easiest way for us to create these canals is simply by using the canal networks in the game. And I am not a huge fan of these. I'm not a big fan of the texture, but they do, as you guys can see, actually line up here. So if we hit pause, if we hit pause, we can very simply map out a canal here. But I'm going to do some pretty substantial modifications to these canals as we build out this entire area. So I'm just gonna map it out like this for starters, and we can create the very same type of canal over here. The changes that I want to make to these canals is I'm gonna adjust the height so that we are, you know, just a meter or two above sea level, because I want this to be like very low to the sea, real Florida style. Then I'm also going to adjust the width of these canals to make them a little less wide, because they just seem kind of bulky now. And then I'm going to try an idea I have for getting some of the sub-building boats to actually work here. So to just showcase what all this mumbo jumbo I'm saying is, I'm just going to make a prototype here so that you guys will see what my plan is. So we're just going to place some of these nicer looking homes that we can imagine would be placed in an area like this and have easy access to boats and yeah, cool. There's just a cool vibe here, you know. It's pretty cool. So let's just find the last one. We'll just use this one. And then moving on to the other side, we will also need to be placing down some buildings over here. And this one's got a pool, so that's just perfect. And we're basically just looking for these pretty big, pretty beautiful homes, because that's the vibe that we're definitely going to be going for here. Cool. We've got our houses now, and obviously the canal is too wide. Sorry. So let's just see how much we should shrink it using node controller. 70, maybe 60. 60 is probably a good spot, as you guys can see. That does leave a bit of room. So if we want to make it very snug, maybe 70 is the best option. Let's just... yeah, 70 looks to be perfect actually. And we'll just make the end node here smaller, because one other thing with the canal is that the way they kind of merge with the ocean, it doesn't look great. So we'll have to try and figure out some way of covering that up and make that look a little nicer, because I'm not a big fan. But we can now conclude that if we leave 4 zoning tiles between the zoned part of the road, so basically 12 zoning tiles in total, then a canal with a width of 70 is going to be our very, very best bet. Something else I want to do is see if I can just raise these canals ever so slightly, or if are they actually too close to these buildings? Are they gonna cause issues? They're not. So we should actually lower these buildings, because that's when they're gonna like really stand out, right? And have all their features being shown, something like this maybe. And I'll just select the rest and try and adjust the height to this building. And we'll do the same over here. And that looks about right. Cool. So I'm not a fan of the the sides here. So I'm going to try and use a key. And hopefully we can use like parallel road tool to actually align this key. And the great question is which one we should use. So there's one with stairs here, and I want some sort of stairs to enable people to actually access their boats, because there'll be cool looking boats throughout. So yeah, let's see what we can actually conjure here. So I'm just gonna move this key closer, and then we are going to, of course, have to just make it much less wide, because it's super wide right now. So I feel if we go 15, let's just place it, and then I'll have to adjust it, and we'll see if this is even gonna work. So if we make this really narrow, we can go like 40. Then maybe that is what we want. I guess the issue with this key is that wait a minute. Maybe if I think this a little differently and actually move it a little closer to the houses. Really, their nodes are fighting with nodes right now. Very annoying. Oh, come on. There you go. So if I just push this closer to the houses, something like this, then maybe the boats can be lined alongside the walkway here. We will try. I'll use another key on the other side just to experiment, to figure out what kind of look I actually want. So using the parallel road tool once again, we'll add one over here, and this one is a bit more traditional looking, and it has a different type of stairs entirely. That could also look pretty nice, I feel. So if we just align this key like so, and then do the same with node controller, we simply go in and we make the whole thing a little narrower. Just squeeze it to about 70%, and then we'll align it, and we'll check which look we prefer. Yoink. And I gotta find the nodes now. It's good I can edit this out. And I guess the issue is I might need to make this much narrower, because if I start lowering it, it's gonna, as you guys can see, it's gonna lower the overall terrain surrounding the buildings, and that's certainly not what I want. So I'm going to squeeze it even more. And that is more like it. It's a very narrow staircase, but yeah, maybe that was a bit too much, but I mean, yeah, we gotta, let's just try it out. Let's let the water in, and we'll see what looks best. Now that the water settled, I'm going to lower the whole thing down so that we get these really shallow waters that we wanted. And I need to select the buildings as well, of course. I'm just gonna grab the whole thing, yoink, and then we'll just lower it. And now we're going to add some boats just to see how that actually looks. And to find these boats requires a little tip, because even if you got everything searchable and selected through your find it mod, you're not going to find any like recreational type boats that you can place. Doesn't work if you go for ship either. But if you use the extra filters and go into sub buildings and search for boats, you've actually got a cool selection of recreational boats here from, I think this is the Sunset Hotels and Retreats. Never mind, it's the Hotels and Retreats DLC. And we can just place these boats throughout, and just, there are a few different variations. There's not like a huge variety, but I mean, that's just how it is. This is vanilla, right? So yeah, I think there's like it's like this catamaran as well. And I think this really brings home the top design more so than this bottom one. So I mean, if you disagree, I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts of this, but I really feel that this looks okay, but it's just and we might use this at other places. I mean, we don't need to have like a uniform look throughout all the riverline suburbs, because we'll have a ton of those. This is going to be like based on Florida, right? But I do feel that over here it looks a little more cool. Now, as you may have noticed, our boats don't actually float. And the reason for that is that and that's another negative with the canals, is that the canals work a little differently because they're their own type of network. Because if we actually grab a boat and we place it here, then you might notice that it's actually floating. And that's obviously the look we want because it looks much better. But I do have an idea that I think I can use to fix that. And we'll see how the game treats this this experimentation I'm gonna do. But I am hopeful that if I draw out like a rural road, like such, and then if I actually move it up here and lower it, then that is going to sort of simulate the water physics a little differently, and the boats are actually going to float on the water. So we're going to try. I'm just gonna pause the game and then I'm going to lower it down. And it actually works. Look, as we lower the road, the boats are lowered until they reach the water and then they start floating. I'm so happy that worked out. This is the first time I'm trying it, so it was a bit of a Hail Mary. Now we'll just, I mean, the issue now, of course, is that this road, it doesn't look pretty having it, you know, submerged into this canal, and the canal is already ugly as it is. But it is a road, so that allows us to, I mean, if we fill this out with the IMT mod and create like a filler, and we maybe change it to, like if you go for grass, then that actually covers it up pretty well, I feel. And we'll just apply that to this segment as well. Now we've got a strip of grass. And maybe this might also fix the issues with these props here. It does. Another issue entirely with the canals, because of the type of network, is you can't actually place these vegetation props on them. They're just gonna float, and you can't, it's not gonna adjust if you lower it. But I think that over here the physics should be a bit different, because there's actually a road down here. So if I place these and lower them, maybe that's gonna look good. Let's see, it's probably a prop. So I'm just gonna remove these other types. See if I can just select these. I can. And yeah, I'm able to actually lower them down like so. And that actually covers it up pretty nicely, I feel. So that's it, I think, for experimentation for now. I'll just move this ever so slightly. And I'm actually, this also looks pretty good, because we can actually like place props here and whatnot. Of course, these stairs are quite steep, but yeah, that's just how it looks. But now we've got two designs that we can actually use throughout. So I'm going to jump into mapping out much of the road network, because then we can align these canals as we like. And if you want to kind of replicate this technique, then remember that if you leave 12 zoning tiles between the roads running parallel, then you can draw out your canal perfectly between the parallel roads, and you can squeeze it down to 70%. That's gonna create a pretty good look. So we're drawing out roads now. All right, so it's literally taken me forever to actually build this because getting the keys aligned perfectly, and I wasn't able to do it here for some reason, is near impossible. It's so finicky, they start really just acting weird and yeah, very, very frustrating. So I might just loosen up on this strict approach for future suburbs with these rivers. But of course, for now, I'm very, very happy with this result. And it's gonna enable me to grab the road and then just copy paste that road throughout, so that we can actually place the boats and have the boats be in touch with the water. Which that doesn't make any sense, but floating. That's, yeah, I'm looking for the word floating. Have the boats actually float. But yeah, I'm just gonna expand the canals a bit here. Just elite them out, and we'll do the terraforming here so that the water can enter. And that's gonna conclude the canal network that we'll have going for now. I don't wanna expand it much further than this. I really want to get to placing down some houses now. That's really going to make this whole area shape up. So that's next in line. But to make it a little easier, I am going to create a tag-based theme with Find It, so that I can easily select the type of houses that I actually want to use. So I'm just gonna go ahead and click this button here with Find It, and I'll create a tag theme for it. So Crystal Reef Wealthy, I could call it. And then I'm going to add every single house that I want to be able to find with this keyword to this tag. Before we add too many houses, I'm just gonna create like a super simple connection, just bringing down the highway way down here, which I want to do eventually anyways. And then we'll just create the ugliest intersection or connection rather than that you can imagine. And I'm sure you can imagine like some ugly ones, but it's gonna be uglier than that. So we'll just use the parallel road tool here to create a road, and we'll just connect these two. There we go. And now we've got a highway leading all the way down here, and we, like I said, it's gonna be basic. So how basic? How about, I mean, as basic as you can imagine. Yoink. Yoink. Oh. Great. Fantastic looking creation. I don't even know why I'm bother making like a smooth gradient. I mean, what kind of way of prioritizing is that? Alright, we've got a connection now. Everything's perfectly fine. I have random selection bound to R using Find It, which basically means that I'll now, with the tag I added, I'll be able to very quickly go through all of these by just hitting R. Machine gun plopping. So let's do some machine gun plopping. Or actually, I think if we're smart about it, we're just gonna add like a tiny cul-de-sac. And now we're ready for the houses. And this is where it gets really interesting. Really been looking forward to this because the work that had to be done before this was terrible. But hopefully it's gonna all be worth it when all these houses are in place. That's, yeah, major if, but let's hope. Now it's a bit hard to exactly replicate the type of very like basic road they use in much of Florida for areas like this, but I'm going to try. And one of the steps I'm going to take is just remove the markings from like all these intersections, you know, because who needs crosswalks? I might do some really simple custom ones, but generally I just want to add a bit of extra unique flair to this area by detailing up the road layout throughout. So I'm starting by removing the crossings here. And then I'll be adding my own simple crossings and do just a bit of IMT detailing with the roads. And then we're gonna finish up the detailing with adding a ton of boats and lots of trees, just to keep it very, very basic. So I think we've removed what we need to remove now. Ideally, we'd also remove the actual markings here for the directions, but I think that does take a little more time. So yeah, it's fine to have it like this for now. Then I'm going to try and detail up a piece of the road a bit, and I guess what I want to do is, I know that I want to remove the white like lines in the middle. I can of course do that by just creating some asphalt in here. Maybe this is just how the road will actually look. I'll make it look a little brighter in the center. And then maybe, let's see. Of course I need to delete that then. But if we have this line here to designate parking throughout the area, which of course does add a bit of detail, so that's not really what I want. But I guess if I just make it like really broken and with cracks and stuff, something like this, where it's barely visible, then I can just copy it and do the same. Do the same over here. Just copy paste it, and then I'll have the brighter asphalt in the center, and I mean that's basically gonna be a unique road actually. So we'll just do something like this, maybe something like this. Oh yes. Then we can of course line the street with some small palm trees of some sort. Let's see what we've got. One of the smaller ones could be this lala palm, and then I'll just add lots of steps so that it's not too frequent, and then we'll shift it so that it moves up on the sidewalk here. Somewhere like something like this. And we'll copy paste it to the other side. And it copy pasted the step as well. So that's perfect. I quite like this look. Let's see this filler here. Maybe we need to just make it a little lighter so that it actually sticks out, and we've got a unique design here. Cool. I kind of like that design. It's improvised. So yeah, I'm just gonna add this design throughout the entire place, and that's gonna take a little while, so I'll see you guys when I'm done. And then we want to do something special for these crossings as well. So yeah, super simple style. Let's see, can we have like parallel, yeah, these lines, and then let's just make them pretty smashed up like so, and we'll just copy paste this style to the other crossings. This one, very nice. And that's basically it. I'm just gonna copy paste this throughout, just like I did with the other one. Great, it's time for boats. But of course, before I place down the boats, I'm of course going to need to actually add our improvised road segment throughout, because that's what's gonna ensure that the boats will actually float, if you guys remember. It's not gonna work right out the gate. And we're ready for our boats. So if you remember, we're using the sub-buildings filter, and we just search for boat, and that gives us a number of different ones to use. Unfortunately, we can't use this one, not here at least. But if we can see something that makes sense with the title of these, they all start with EXP. So I'm just curious, yeah, that's gonna help us filter, so we can once again use R to just cycle through and filter these, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I'll add throughout now. And now it's finally time for the trees. And they are just gonna make such a big difference, because they are a brush I use to cover up everything that's ugly or looks out of place, of which there's lots of stuff here. So yeah, dig in. We're going ham with the trees now. So I'm just moving around and adding like a few decals with a pool to some of these houses, because most of these houses would have pools. I probably won't add it to all of them. That's a bit tedious, but just gonna add it here and there so that there are a few more pools in the landscape. And yeah, I know it's all gonna look a bit the same when I'm using the same decal. That could of course be changed, but it's fine. I might make one more design and just use that throughout. So let's just do that. We're gonna grab a decal. Anyone really. Let's see. Yeah, this one is fine. Just gonna find an appropriate house. Actually, there aren't all that many left, so most houses do have like pools by now, it seems, but we can add one more variation, and we'll grab this pool this time around like so, and then we'll just copy paste this and add some more pools to a few houses throughout. Here you can jump into the pool right after you've enjoyed a barbecue, or actually you can't, because there's a bit of a slope here. Oh well. No pool for that guy, sorry. Over here then, good location. These people have a pool, these people are getting a pool. Pools for everyone. And that concludes our episode on the river-lined suburbs. I am pretty happy with how this area turned out. Let's just take a bit of a look. I'm of course gonna shoot some nice cinematics in just a moment. I'm really happy how everything turned out. It was a lot of work actually. The area isn't exactly massive, but damn, getting these keys aligned with the canals, and as you guys can see, some places I just sort of gave up. So I think that if I'm to create more of these areas in the future here in Crystal Reef, which I likely will, I may have to experiment with like a bit of an easier technique maybe, because this was certainly tricky. Now, if you've enjoyed this episode and you're still stuck around, thank you so much. If you'd hit the like button, I would really appreciate it. And then I need some suggestions, because I've named this Riverline Suburbs, which is obviously not a fitting name, but just something I did for planning. Do you want to name this district? Give me a suggestion down below, and if you want to add like a bit of a history to the district, then please go ahead, and then I'll pick one of you guys' suggestions. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, in the link down below there's a playlist link to this entire series. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.